Yeah, I just did an interview today with a journalist at Voices of America, and he wanted to know more about the Trump administration's freeze of all immigration applications for anyone who entered the United States on a categorical parole program. So, what is categorical parole? So under the Biden administration, there were a few humanitarian parole programs that were allowed for people from certain countries to enter the United States because of, you know, crises that were happening in their home countries. So, for example, for Ukrainians, there was a program called U for You, United for Ukraine, to allow Ukrainians to get parole into the United States because of the war between Russia and Ukraine. There's also another humanitarian parole program called CHNV, which was for citizens of um, South American countries, including Nicaragua and Venezuela, because of the unstable situations that were happening in those countries. So under the Biden administrations, citizens from these countries were invited and allowed to come into the United States. Um, so they were lawfully permitted to come here, right? Um, what does Trump do? He decides that uh, for anyone who entered under categorical parole, if they have filed any kind of immigration application, um, immigration is now going to freeze these applications and not process them. What is the reason? Supposedly because they are looking into fraud, and also national security, concerns. Is this substantiated? I don't think so, right? So one example that the government has given for supposed fraud is that, for the CHNV program, one of the requirements is that a sponsor in the US had to file a form called I-134A, which is basically an affidavit saying, I'm going to be responsible for this person who's coming to the United States. I'm going to be sure that they have the financial resources to be able to live and stay here. So the government said that they have reason to believe that some people are serving as quote unquote serial sponsors, meaning they are filing I-134s left and right to let anyone in here. What is the basis for the government's belief in this? We don't know. We haven't seen this evidence, but that's one of the reasons that the government has come up with to suddenly freeze any applications that are being filed by parolees. And, like there supposedly is a USCIS memo about this suspension. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I think CBS was the first to break the story 2 days ago, so we don't know a lot about what is the actual effect of this freeze, right? So there was mention about like applications are being frozen and there's going to be extreme vetting of applicants just to make sure that they are not engaging in fraud and that they're not a danger to the community and that they don't pose a risk to national security. But what really does that entail? What level of screening or vetting is the government going to apply, right? They haven't given these details. I don't even think they've really thought it through, but this really can extend to any kind of application. So let's say someone who came in under one of these parole programs then applies for a work permit, right? Under certain circumstances, you are entitled to a work permit. For example, if you file an asylum application, after that asylum application has been pending with immigration for 150 days, then you can rightfully ask for a work permit so that you can work in the United States legally. Um, I think that technically, even something like a work permit application is going to be subject to this freeze. So what are people supposed to do? They've been allowed into the United States under parole, and now they have to go about finding a way to support themselves and work. Now, all of a sudden, they're not going to be able to get a work permit. How does this help the overall country? I just don't understand the reasoning behind it. I think, as I told the reporter, that the whole reason for the suspension is it's to send out this broader hateful message that all immigrants are criminals and potential terrorists. Um, and that's why you see that immigrants are being shipped out to Guantanamo for expedited removal, right? The equation is these are dangerous people and we need to ship them out to deport them, right? Basically likening immigrants to criminals and terrorists. So, yeah, that's just the latest that's happened. Um, and it's kind of um remains to be seen, like how broad sweeping this new directive is going to be. But yeah, it could have the potential to affect a lot of people. I just did a consultation this week for someone who was admitted under one of these parole programs, and they're a citizen of Cuba. So citizens of Cuba have certain avenues for green card that are specific to them, given the fact that, there was a whole Cold War, right? And in the it was decided that, if you're a citizen of Cuba and you are able to kind of reach US shores, then you qualify for adjustment, right? Meaning a green card after living in the US for 1 year. And now this whole suspension comes into play, and the suspension was announced after I gave the consultation to this client. At the time of the consultation, we had decided, okay, after 1 year of your entry into the United States, you do seemingly qualify for adjustment under the Cuban Adjustment Act. Now that's all up in the air. Now, a strict reading of this directive would mean that his application for Cuban adjustment could now be affected by this freeze. And how long is the freeze going to last? We don't know yet. The government hasn't yet stated, right? So it just makes it really hard to give sound advice to clients, because immigration is like a moving target, right? One day this is the law, the next day could be completely different. So that's the moving target of immigration law under the current administration.